Hello, and welcome to today's workshop. We are here to discuss how to write a strong statement of purpose for your graduate school applications. My name is Magdalena Barrera. I'm a professor of Chicana and Chicano Studies, and I'm a former faculty fellow at the Chicanx Latinx Student Success Center, aka the Centro, who's sponsoring this workshop. We're really glad that you're making time for this session, and let's begin. There's going to be 5 parts to today's workshop. First, we're going to go over the typical components of a graduate school application so that you know where the statement of purpose fits into the larger picture. Next, we're going to discuss the role and importance of that statement. Then we'll walk through 3 steps for writing a strong statement, and I will add some additional considerations, final tips for you to think about, and then we will close out. But before we jump into those topics, I want to tell you that not so long ago, I was in your shoes. Like many of the students who visit Centro, I was the first in my family to go to a 4-year university and earn a bachelor's degree. As you can see here, I'm writing what I thought would be my very last paper. Little did I suspect that I would go on to a PhD program, write many more papers, and then become a professor and spend the rest of my life grading papers. But I share this photo to let you know that you are not alone in figuring out what this path looks like. There's others of us in our community who have navigated it. We've come out the other side, and we're happy to support you through this process. And you can do this too. So we're going to begin by reviewing the typical components of a graduate application. Some of them are very similar to applying to college, so the good news is you already have some experience with this part of the process. There's usually 6 components of an application. First is a formal application to the university and paying the processing fee, which is typically about $50 to $85 at most institutions. This is the form where you provide your contact info, tell them what program you're applying to, and other preliminary information. Next are your GRE scores. The GRE stands for the Graduate Records Exam, and it's basically like a grad school version of the SATs that many colleges require. Make sure to take your GRE exam in the months before you prepare your applications. And note that some programs may require a subject exam of the GRE, so review each program's requirements very carefully. Another part of your application are your official academic transcripts, which are usually sent directly from SJSU to the schools where you're applying to. Then there's a statement of purpose, which we'll be talking about in a lot more depth shortly. Another critical component is a writing sample. Doctoral programs may request a sample that's about 20 pages in length. You want this to be an example of your best academic writing. Maybe you were a McNair scholar and worked on an independent research project. Or maybe you took a class that required a long research paper and you earned an A on it. Well, dust those off, ask someone to help you strengthen or update it, and use that as your writing sample. And last but not least are letters of recommendation. Most programs will ask for 3, and the reality is that it's best if they are written by professors whose classes you took. Sometimes applicants will ask for a supervisor or manager to write a letter, and while that's not the end of the world, you do want to obtain letters that speak to your strengths as a scholar. We'll talk more about obtaining strong letters of rec in a separate workshop. Now let's focus in on the statement of purpose. It's a short essay, usually no more than 4 double-spaced pages in which you outline the following. First, tell the admissions committee who you are and what you want to study. You should identify a specific area or topic. For example, instead of saying, I want to study Chicano literature, you might want to say, I want to study representations of Chicanas in the poetry and fiction of the Chicano movement as a way to better explore changing gender dynamics during the 1960s and 70s. You see, that's a lot more specific. 2, you want to help the admissions committee understand your academic preparation and why you are pursuing a graduate degree. This is an opportunity to tell them about how you discovered your academic passion and the classes and readings that have inspired you. If you engage in a research program such as McNair, you definitely want to highlight that. Maybe you double majored or worked full-time while going to school. Again, highlighting the experiences that have helped you learn to manage your time and work independently, which you will need to do as a grad student. Also, you should explain why you're pursuing the degree. What do you want to do long term? Show them that you understand that this degree is a stepping stone to becoming a professional writer and researcher, because that's what professors are. 3, Convince them why you are a good match for their graduate program. Maybe you're a psychology major who is interested in understanding trauma and PTSD in Latinx communities, and you found a psych PhD program that has faculty working in a similar area. In another example, you could tell them how the experiences you bring as a first-gen student from an underrepresented background will enable you to be a dynamic member of their incoming cohort. Because this is the document where you make your case for why they should offer you a place in their program, the statement of purpose is one of the most critical pieces of your overall application. So now that the pressure's on, maybe you're starting to freak out about how important this essay is, and you're wondering, okay, how do I write this statement of purpose? Well, there are 3 basic steps to it, and we're going to walk through them now. Step 1 is to brainstorm. Here are some questions that you should ask yourself. Why do I want this degree? What is really behind your desire to apply to graduate school? This is a major life commitment, so make sure the reasons why you are applying are the ones that you truly believe in and that reflect your values and aspirations. What courses or program features excite me the most? Look through the course requirements of the programs you're applying to, the descriptions of their classes, the faculty research interests. What connects to things that you want to learn about or to skills that you want to gain? Where do I want this degree to take me professionally and personally? What is your long-term vision for yourself? And how will this degree help you get there? And finally, how will my unique personal and academic experiences add value to the program? So think of this as they're not just offering something to you, they will be getting something from you as well. It's a two-way street. Step 2 is to develop a first draft after you have done this brainstorming. There's a basic formula for statements of purpose. There are 4 basic sections. First is an introduction. You can open up with an interesting fact or anecdote about yourself, then follow it up with a clear statement about your general interests and long-term goals. So as an example, here's what I wrote in my own introduction to my statement of purpose. This is what I said. I look forward to graduate school not as an end in itself, but rather as the means of reaching my goals of teaching, researching, and writing literary and cultural studies at the university level with a special emphasis on Chicana literature. Through my perspective as a Mexican-American feminist from the Midwest, I want to help identify and fill in what I consider to be gaps in the literature on Mexican communities in the U.S. Most of all, I thrill in taking up the gauntlet thrown down by one Chicano professor who angrily informed me, "You cannot rewrite Chicano history with your modern feminist perspective." So you can see I told a brief story about an interaction I had and what it is I really want to focus on. Second is a section where you outline your previous research and academic experience. This is where you explain how you have prepared to pursue this degree. And by preparation, I really just mean telling the story of how and why you earned a bachelor's degree. Third is a section where you specify topics that you want to study. These are not set in stone. Once you get into your grad program, your interests may change slightly. But for now, you want to give the admissions committee a general sense of your interests so they know whether they will be able to help you develop those interests. And fourth is a section where you explain why you are applying to this specific program and why it's a good fit for your interests. Maybe there are specific faculty members who specialize in the areas that interest you. Or maybe the program has specific initiatives or collaboratives that you would like to be contributing to. So here's where you show that you did your research on them and didn't just choose to apply blindly. The third step is to edit and refine your statement. And this includes proofreading your grammar, spelling, and punctuation. Like a CV or resume, your statement should be as close to flawless as possible. Grad students are on the path to becoming professional writers, so you don't want to have any mistakes in your application. Allow time for the writing and editing process. Complete your first draft, set it aside, then read it with fresh eyes on another day. This is not something that you want to crank out the night before it's due. And finally, share it with your faculty mentors and ask for their feedback. Again, it's best to get advice from folks who have themselves been through the process and who have read many statements of purpose. So those are the basics, but here are some additional considerations. First, remember that your overall goal is to share a clear vision of your educational journey and your sense of purpose for seeking this degree. That's why it's called a statement of purpose. Are there any weaknesses in your academic record? Like maybe a semester when personal or family issues impacted your grades, which is way more common than you might think. If so, you can briefly explain. You don't have to share anything uncomfortable or that you don't want to talk about, but just generally summarize what happened. Then focus on the positive, the growth and resilience that you showed in bouncing back from that challenging time. Did you take time off after college? That's okay, most applicants do. This is a good opportunity to explain how your work and life experiences enhance the insights and focus you're going to bring to the program. And more than anything, let your uniqueness and personality shine through. While you want to show strong academic writing, you should also let your voice emerge. And finally, this is not the time to be humble. Do not underplay your achievements. If it's hard for you to assess how special you are, then ask your friends, ask the SJSU staff and faculty who know you well, and ask them what they see in you and what they admire about you. Maybe you are listening to this advice thinking, well, I wasn't a McNair Scholar, or I didn't apply for any internships. Like, I don't really know what I have that's special. That's okay. In working towards your bachelor's degree, you actually accomplished many smaller goals along the way to the finish line. So don't underestimate yourself or your achievements. And now with Selena's Twirl, we are closing out this overview of how to write a statement of purpose for grad school. And in closing, I'd like to invite you to check out the next workshop, which focuses on obtaining letters of recommendation. In the meantime, if you have follow-up questions or want specific advice, follow up with me. I can be reached via email at magdalena.barrera@sjsu.edu. You can also book an office hours appointment with me at barrera.youcanbook.me. Thanks, and remember, you're not alone on this journey, and you've got a team of folks at Centro who are here to help you. So see you next time.